Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you 3 different ways of creating a smooth patch pocket. A patch pocket can be put on a jacket or pants and can emphasize certain design features depending on its placement. However, if you're making a curved patch pocket, creating a nice smooth curved edge can be tricky. So today I'm going to show you 3 different methods of doing that, as well as a method of making a patch pocket that looks like it's floating on your garment. For the first method, I'm going to make use of Wonderfil's iron-infused thread. Iron-infused dissolves with the heat of an iron to create a temporary adhesion. For this method, I'll be using it in my bobbin and the lower loopers of my serger. Cut out your pocket and finish the top edge with your serger with iron-infused in the lower looper. Turn the top self-facing to the outside and stitch down the facing, continuing to run a line of stay stitching on the seam line all around the pocket. Now, run a line of basting just outside of your stay stitching line with designer in your needle and iron-infused in the bobbin. Flip your upper facing to the outside and push out the corners. Pull up on the bobbin thread slightly to ease in the corners into a smooth curve. Take your pocket to the ironing board and press right along your row of stay stitching. The bobbin thread will hold the curve in place and the serged line will secure the top edge. Now you have a smooth pocket to stitch onto your garment. The next method makes use of a pocket lining. Cut out your pocket piece, then cut out a piece of lining or interfacing the size of the pocket minus the width of the top facing plus the seam allowance. With right sides together, stitch the lining or interfacing to the pocket facing edge, leaving a 2-inch opening in your stitching. Trim a scant 1/8 inch from the side and bottom edges of the lining piece. Next, fold the facing to the outside and line up the edges, easing the smaller lining pieces to fit. Stitch a nice even curve using your seam allowance guide. If you have difficulty stitching a smooth curve, you can use a pocket guide to draw a line with the disappearing marker to follow when you stitch. Trim the seam allowance to 1/4 inch. Now turn the pocket through the opening at the facing edge and push out the corners. Press the edges, making sure the lining is not rolling to the outside. If you have used a fusible interfacing, the lining will fuse to the pocket. Pin the pocket in place on your garment and top stitch in place. I like to use spaghetti as a top stitching thread. Spaghetti is a 12-weight thread, which will add a strong, professional-looking finish. It is available in 60 colors to either match your project or provide a nice contrast. Make sure to use a 9014 top stitching needle to accommodate the thicker thread, and use Deco Bob in the bottom for trouble-free stitching. Deco Bob is a fine 80 weight bobbin thread which works especially well to hold down a heavier top thread without adding bulk to the stitching. The final method will create a pocket that looks like it is floating on your garment. Cut out your pocket piece and your lining as described for the last method. Use a lining fabric and not a fusible interfacing. Stitch the lining piece to the pocket upper facing right sides together and press the seam towards the lining. Now fold the pocket along the top edge and press. Stay stitch along the seam line of the fashion fabric pocket piece. With iron infused in the bobbin, run a line of basting stitching just outside of the seam allowance on the lower curved edge of the fashion fabric pocket piece only. Place your pocket on the garment. Then flip up the outer pocket and pin the lining to the garment from one top pressed edge around to the other. With this method, any stress put on the pocket is put on the lining, so I like to use a strong thread such as designer in the needle and the bobbin. Stitch along your pinned line, backstitching exactly at the folded edge. Now fold and press the outer edges of the fashion fabric pocket along the stay stitched line, pulling up on the bobbin thread to ease the corners to a nice round curve. Also, press the seam allowance of the lining pieces towards the pocket lining. Then trim the lining pocket piece seam allowance to 3/8 of an inch. Now flip the outer pocket down over the pocket lining and pin in place. As the pocket stress is put on the lining, you can now hand or machine blind stitch the outer pocket in place. For this, I like to use Invisifil. Invisifil is a 100 weight thread, so your hand stitches will disappear into your fabric and become virtually invisible. You will see when you have finished that the pocket is very strong, but looks like it is just sitting on top of your garment. I hope with these 3 methods to choose from that you'll be able to create perfect patch pockets for every project. Thanks for tuning in. Please leave a comment in the comment section below and let us know what you'd like to see next time. We'll see you all then.